So welcome everyone to GPS Time Online Professional Development Programming. These are very difficult times, COVID-19 pandemic, sitting at home, a lot of stuff is happening at home. Yet, I think this is a very good time to work on your professional profiles. I understand there is a lot of confusion in terms of how the company industry recruitment is going on. In some companies, it has gone down. In some of the companies, there's been no change. And a lot of companies are actually thinking ahead of time and using this time effectively to screen candidates, recruit, and at least interview candidates so that right when the markets open up, they can start hiring, they can get them on board. This would help save them time. But whatever it is, you still should be working on your LinkedIn profile right now. I know that when you're in lab, 70% of the times you're in the lab doing experiments, you only get 20%, 30% time to actually do work on your manuscript and grant writing or data keeping. But now when you're stuck in front of your computer for 8 hours, and I know you cannot be in front of 8 hours doing the same thing, grant writing, manuscript writing, or just whatever you're doing. So you have to add some change. So this would sort of you should use this opportunity to work on your LinkedIn profile. So with that, we will get started.
As Render said, my name is Lauren Lyon. I am the career educator for graduate students on campus. I'm with the Division of Career Pathways, and my whole role is this, working with you all on professional and career development. And I know the last couple of weeks I've been getting a lot of questions on how to continue job search and networking when everyone's remote. And so I'm happy to be here and kind of sharing some best practices and tips for you all during this time. Your professional brand starts well before you're starting to apply for jobs. And it's really about learning how to best share those skills and market those skills for future employers. And one way of keeping on top of this and making sure you're keeping everything in one place is doing it through a place like LinkedIn and then allowing people to see that growth and the skills that you're continuing to develop. So wanting to, whatever stage you're at, whether it's, you're on the job market now or you're looking within the next couple of years, starting this page for yourself through LinkedIn is the start of sharing your brand out with companies. And research shows time and time again that majority of companies are going to use platforms like LinkedIn to recruit, to look at you as far as compare your application to what your professional brand is online. So this is a great way, when employers are Googling you, the first thing to come up is that professional brand that you're wanting to share out with them. And you're able to, connect not only with just organizations, but individuals who can, act as people for informational interviews, potentially act as mentors. And we can get into some of that a little bit later too, of how to connect, with organizations and individuals. But right now is a fantastic time to continue to do this, especially if maybe some job searches or internships are on hold. Now is the time to be making connections for the future. And kind of like we had talked about before, this is where you're going to be showcasing those skills to recruiters, to hiring managers, so that you're out there and you're ready to go. Your brand is there. People are aware of what you're presenting for the time when the time comes to actually be applying.
Yeah, just to add some more to it, we have this misconception that my resume is good enough, or I can actually post my resume on LinkedIn profile, and that should be good enough. But keep in mind that your resume has to be tailored to every job you're applying to. If you post your resume on your LinkedIn profile, it is not a tailored resume. So your recruiter might get a wrong impression, and then they may not offer you that job, or even screen you for that job. So I would stay away from putting your resume on LinkedIn because it is not specific. Second thing is you have to have your LinkedIn profile tailored to the kind of career you're interested in. And LinkedIn is one place where all the stuff you cannot add into two-page resume, LinkedIn gives you all that opportunity to play with it. You can add almost every experience and everything which you have done, but you have to be very smart in terms of how specifically you're adding. We'll talk about the STAR approach, which companies really look for. The third point is when companies come, they won't just start, browsing and saying oh, Harinder, let me look at Harinder's profile. No, they'll actually post the job, whatever let's say it's a medical writer job and it's got job description listed. They have algorithm, programs which will actually feed in put those keywords, and it'll try to match it to all the LinkedIn profiles which have these keywords. So keep that in mind. You want your profile to be highlighted when recruiters put in those keywords and see what pops up. So make sure that your profile is on top of their list and they start contacting you. Okay. Sorry about. Okay, profile must-haves. Profile picture, Lauren.
Yeah, so I'll jump in here. I think this is one of the top questions that I get is what should that profile picture be of? And people aren't really sure. And so just some advice here. We want that professional photo. This is your professional brand, right? This is not just social media, but it's your professional social media. And so it really should be a picture of, shoulders up, a professional, it doesn't have to necessarily be in a suit, but something that's representative of where you're wanting to go as a professional. So we want you smiling. We want it friendly. This is where they're also going to get a sense of your personality. But we do have some faux pas that are often seen in STEM fields. And Harinder, you can kind of walk through some of these that we often see.
Yeah. So one of the things, we think that, I want to showcase that I'm a scientist and I want an industry research scientist job. And I'm a microscopist and I'm looking for a field application scientist in this microscopy job, or this job specifically does a lot of facts or this, thing. And I'm going to be sitting next to that microscope and analyzing data so that they see that this is what I do. That's not right. That it doesn't work like that. The LinkedIn people who come and looked at your profile, they're recruiters. They are not PhD, probably they are not PhD level people, or even if they are trained to look at the professional profile. Something, shows that you are professional, and this is not professional. It is great in a lab setting. It is great if your PI puts a picture with mentoring students and, sitting behind you telling you pipette right or whatever, but this is not right. Standing next to the poster right here, one of my friends, she's standing. Just to let you know, I actually took permission from my friends. These are all my friends who said, yes, you can show. And now they have changed their profile pictures. So standing next to the poster saying that, look, I'm a great science communicator, that's not right. And look at these two guys at the bottom, and they're wonderful friends of mine, but I had to laugh it off, and I was like, do not be so serious in this. You're on social media, just smile. And on the right side, these are, as Lauren said, it's good to have a professional profile. You want to have a suit, but a lot of us, what we do is, we went for a party, a networking event, or we went to a wedding and we have a flower on our suit and we put that picture because that's the only picture we had with the suit. That's also not right. Recruiters can see that you're not serious. You did not put effort on getting a professional picture. The guy with the cat, no.
And we see that a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And you don't have to pay a professional photographer or anything like that. Most cameras, sorry, if you have an iPhone or a good, Samsung, whatever it might be, you can, just go outside where there's some greenery in the background or something like that and take just a picture from shoulders up, and that is good to go. So you don't have to be in a studio or have a professional take it. Just something on your phone is good to go. And one other thing to note here too, make sure your picture is public to all. So that's something in your settings that you'd want to look at to make sure that your profile picture is public and not just set to people you're connected with, because this is one way people find you and get connected to you, and we want that picture to be showing up.
UCI has all the departments that they have either their own camera people who will actually take your picture. So I would go to your specific department and ask them if there's a dedicated camera person who will take your picture. They're the ones who take faculty pictures. If not, then each school should have a dedicated camera person, and it's free. So if you just 5 of you, 10 of you get together and reach out to that person, they will for sure do it for you.
All right, so one other setting that we want to make sure we have done on our profile is our personalized URL. So when your LinkedIn profile is completed, you have all these elements we're going to go through. You're going to want to be publicizing this. You're going to want to be sharing it with people, and one way to do that easily is to customize it. So when you go on your LinkedIn, hit view profile, and then you will see this here, the edit public profile and URL. Click that and then just make it something short, right? So it'll be linkedin.com/Lauren Lyon, or first initial last name. If you don't do this, then your URL is going to be really long, right? A bunch of numbers and letters behind that .com.
I actually see that on some of the resumes, when you put that, it's so long that it takes up all the space, and now you're struggling. You go back and I think you can change it if it's not being taken. So just keep in mind, it looks very bad when a hiring manager looks at your resume and you type the whole thing, Harinder Singh and ABCD 94146419124. So don't do that.
Yeah. So
Uh,
super easy to change here.
we have one question from one of the audience. I think it's relevant to the picture,
Right.
previous slide. Is it okay if the photo has to be cropped and doesn't fill up the entire circle space, or is that unprofessional?
I would say it's probably case by case. I would say it depends on what the rest of the circle is looking like. But in general, it would be nice if we can see the whole thing, especially we don't want to be cropping out if you're cropping out other people or things like that. Sometimes that's a little more obvious and looks awkward. So if we can, just one picture of you, and you can also manage it sometimes in the size of your photo, the settings to make it a little bit larger so that it would fit in there, or compress it if it needs to be compressed. But typically we'd like to just see you filling out that circle.
And I can understand that people's pictures change all the time. When I was my grad student picture was not same as when I was a postdoc with long hair and curl and everything. So maybe it's a good idea to keep updating your pictures, if as and when you are getting out into market. Or did we miss anything in this one?
Nope, I think we're good to go.
You got the background slide, the airplane landing?
Oh, not yet. Thank you. So we also, when we're talking about your picture, your customized URL, the first things we're seeing, and we're going to go into detail with some of the headers and your name and how that should be displayed, but you also want to change that automatic background, where you kind of see like my plane there. Harinder has pictures on his, and we'll look at his as well later on. But research actually shows that if you change that and you don't have that just default blue picture, that people will stay on your page longer and explore more. They actually scroll down to see that. So we want to get them engaged, and this is one easy way to do it. Yeah, there's Harinder's. And you want to kind of have it something somewhat related to your professional brand. We don't want it to be like another picture of you or pictures of your puppies or anything like that, but something related to your professional brand. So if you read through my LinkedIn, it'll talk about, walking with people on their journeys through their careers, things like that. And that's kind of where the travel comes in mine. So it's a little bit more creative approach there. And then Harinder, you want to talk about yours?
Yeah, mine is, so I'm a trained neuroscientist, and I'm always like, and I like to connect with people. I'm great at networking, and I go to professional networking. And so this sort of shows that, I'm a neuroscientist and trying to connect with people and sharing ideas. So this sort of gives that impression of what I have in my headline and what they're going to read as they go through my profile. And you'll see, let me go back to the previous slide. Yeah, look at all these things. These people did not even care to change the background. So this is, maybe this person did, but it still looks like, what the generic LinkedIn shows. I would take it seriously and do that so that they spend a little bit more time.
So
Okay.
with that, you want to go back one slide?
Yeah.
So the other thing that they're going to see, so when you go onto someone's LinkedIn page, you see just the first kind of essential things is their picture, their background picture, their header. And that is, what shows up underneath your name. And so we definitely want to customize this. It can be something related to your current role, but we don't want it to be auto-populated. It should be representative of your professional brand, what you're trying to, get across for people when what they're about to see when they scroll through that, and it needs to be professionally focused. So we have some examples on the next page and
Yeah.
of some to-dos and whatnot for your name as well.
Great. Sorry, one thing to mention, you see like between me, talent pipeline builder, and higher education leader, you see these stars. So this is something which there are some symbols you can use from on LinkedIn, but there are the special ones are not there. So you have to copy paste and put them. So don't get lost that, well, since it doesn't have it, I don't want to do it. But then this also shows in special effort you're trying to put, like, symbols which sort of, pops up, and then people get impressed with the profile. Yeah. Lauren?
Yeah, so we want to be careful when we're using our headline in our name, when we're writing our name here as well. Overusing doctor, comma, PhD, choose which one you're wanting to do. Do you want to have that PhD? Do you want to use the doctor? You can definitely add in some of these things, some credentials behind, especially if that's going to be part of your brand and what you're wanting to get across for people. That headline should have some skills that you're wanting to express. So like Harinder, his lists some of his core skills that represent his professional brand. Mine focus on the overarching professional focus of clinical and educational counseling. And then from there, it's going to lead into that summary. So some examples that we don't want to see and what we see a lot with our LinkedIn profiles with our students is that they all have an auto population of student at University of California, Irvine, or postdoctoral research associate, or researcher at UCI, student researcher at UCI. And we want to be more descriptive. We want to have those keywords to where it's all leading into what we're going to be seeing in that summary and the rest of our profile.
We have one question from Kara. For the profile heading photo, are we allowed to use a photo from Google, or is that not typically accepted? So my views, there are a lot of photos, if you try to extract from Google, they are copyright. So make sure they don't have any copyright. You don't have people's signatures or, C symbol. If that's not there, and then you can go back and see a lot of other people have used it. So you're safe, you can use that. You do not want to get into trouble that somebody starts to blacklist your website, LinkedIn profile, because LinkedIn will take notice of that and they'll take it down. So stay away from that. So some of my images have actually come out from, I saw that people have used it extensively, and so that's safe. Okay, so here, thank you, Lauren, for giving that. So summary, headline, these things are important. You do not want to write you're a student at UC System. You do not want to write that you're a candidate at this place if you are looking for jobs. But if you're looking for internships, we'll get into that. But writing postdoc research is like, let me be very frank and give you numbers. Around 60,000 students get into PhD program every year. Multiply that by 5. And let's say all of them are not graduating at the same time. You may have, number of maybe lower number or higher number, you still have around 100,000 people actually getting out and becoming postdocs, because 80% of PhDs default into postdoc. And imagine everyone writing postdoctoral researcher. So your profile just does not stand out, and recruiter is not going to look at because you are one of those other postdocs who's out there in the market. So make it stand out. Okay, yeah. You want to start, Lauren? I'll take the
Sure. Yeah, so these are just some examples. We tell you what not to do. So here are some headline examples that would be okay, right, to use. And we'll talk about some of the gray areas of it as well. But, have it split up about your core areas that you focus on. Talk about, what you do, what your goal is when you work. So driving innovation from the outside, right? Are you a mentor, an educator? You can talk about yourself as emerging, right? So some people don't feel quite as confident to say, this is what I am yet, because you're still in that student phase, or you're still in that, kind of researcher under somebody else phase. That's fine. So talk about yourself as an emerging scientist with your particular interests. And if I know when I work with some people, they're like, I'm not quite comfortable letting go of letting myself say that I'm not a PhD candidate, or having that as part of my brand. I think Harinder and I agree that maybe that's okay to have that be part of your brand as a PhD candidate if you are looking for internships, or if you're not quite on the job market for anything yet. But your professional brand is really who you are outside of your academics here at UCI as a student or as a PhD candidate. So it really needs to kind of go away from seeing student or candidate onto your profile on your header here.
So as Lauren mentioned, this is one place which is a public profile, and you're trying to, when you go to an interview, you're trying to impress the interviewer. You're trying to impress recruiters and hiring managers that, look, this. So this is one thing which is going to stay there. So you want to showcase and sort of show off to some extent safely that, you have all this. So, and we are taught in academia to be very humble. I do not want to talk too much about myself. Is that even true? What I'm trying to say? So just get rid of that. You say what you actually are. Example, like protein chemist, structural biologist, enzymologist. You are, and you maybe because you're going to be looking for industry jobs, which are companies which are based on structural biology, and you want to write that. Maybe it's a protein chemist job. So write that if you do that kind of work. One of the other global healthcare venture strategists. This is, maybe this is a little too much, but then this is more for like, people who are already in that market. But things like drives innovation from outside, and yeah, that's good to use it. Mentor, educator, you mentor undergrads or other students or postdocs or staff people in your lab, or you are an educator if you've taken classes, if you serve as TA, that's your, you can use. We have one question. Can I write aspiring, Lauren?
So I would say it depends on what it is. Like if, like Harinder's saying, give yourself the credit that you are actually these things, right? So if you can get rid of the aspiring and just claim that you are that, all the better. But if you haven't been in that field and you're hoping to, and you're looking for those internships or those entry-level positions, I think I'd be okay with it. But I'd maybe like to focus on more of the hard skills and that brand that you're wanting to put forward before we jump to the aspiring piece.
Yeah, you can add that into your summary section. We'll talk about it. There, don't waste this space by adding a generic or just ambiguous thing, which is not going to help. Another thing I was going to forget, student or researcher in John Smith's lab. John Smith doesn't exist in real world. John Smith is not going to help you get a job. John Smith is nothing in real professional world. Please take that down. I don't care unless the John Smith is the Nobel laureate and everyone's going to be like, wow, let me look at your Harinder who worked in Bruce Albert's lab. This doesn't, please take it off. Even in your professional experience, if you're writing that, yeah, if you really want to mention it, you love your PI, write it, but I would still advise against it.
And probably the rest of your LinkedIn as well. So well, let's, we only got 5 minutes left, so let's move through these quickly. So these are just some examples of, other ones that we can actually look through that are, PhDs, or they have great examples of these headlines.
Yeah, so these are, they're all alumni, and you can see that how they've actually made up their profile, which is very innovative. Summary section. So these are, you have to play with your keywords in your summary section. This is where you can write aspiring. I have highlighted, these come from our alumni whose headlines you saw before. The underlying ones are the keywords which they have used. They've talked about their therapeutic area, expertise. They've talked about shaping and driving medical affairs strategy. The person is MSL, so maybe you don't have to write that right now. But leading cross-functional teams through 8 years of neuroscience research, leading to 24 conference presentations, 11 awards, NSF. This is what you want. This is like a START approach. This is the research you do, and this is the action you took, and then this is a result which led to 5 high impact factor publications, awards, and conferences. About I'm an adaptable and knowledgeable scientist. They're looking for someone who's fast learner. I have extensive experience in reviewing external scientific opportunities. Yes, you do have that. And I am I'm strategic thinker, excelling at communicating scientific problems and concepts to wide audience types. They want to see that you're a scientist, you talk to PIs, you talk to your peers who are PhD scientists, but you should be able to talk to lay audience also. That's important. I am also passionate about mentoring and outreach. This is something you throw it out there, and it is important to see that you have some passion. The other one is neurobiologist turned medical writer, specialized in molecular biology, expertise in experimental design, troubleshooting, data analysis, science communication. This is great. Projects include educational literature, pair communications on the clinical utility and diagnostic testing. This is, maybe you can skip that part, but you see an example which we're talking. You talk about strength and interest, show more personality, right? Get ideas from other positions. So that's why I showed you some of these examples. If you're in doubt, we will give you, what you should be doing. But you have to go back and look at alumni, other people who are in that career right now. Go back and see how their career trajectory has been. They must have put a lot of effort in their profile. So take some examples from there. You can actually use keywords from there if you think that fits into what describes, if it describes you. So summary of skills, these are the keywords. Again, I won't get into the details here. We will be sharing the PowerPoint and the recording, but something like highly motivated, PhD scientist, biomedical scientist, project manager, program manager, biomedical scientist, independent scientist, lead projects, that's your leadership roles, team player, collaborator, companies want to look for this, multiple projects, multitasking, you'll be dealing with tons of things, adapt quickly, fast learner. So keep that in mind. And again, major skill, there was one thing which this person wrote, highly motivated PhD student, biomedical scientist, independently led projects, who did that? Okay, cost management, risk assessment. These are like very big terms, and you're like, what does that mean? You work in a lab, you order, if you have to order things, you have to keep in mind the cost, if, that's going to be too much money off your grant, and assessing the risk when you're doing experiments, you want to see, if that thing is really going to lead to something concrete data, or this is just a waste of time. So these are very, technical jargon of the business industry side, but this is very relevant, and you can really translate that, what you do, into those terminology. Okay, Lauren. Oh, you're muted. Yeah. Okay.
Typically next on your LinkedIn is going to be the education section. And so here we don't just want to just list, I'm currently doing my PhD at UC Irvine or your postdoc, whatever it might be. But you want to also include some of the activities, societies, programs that you're involved with here. Because this is the next thing they're going to see after that summary. So let's give them a little bit more. So this is something that, people miss out on, and don't be undervaluing your work. Kind of like Harinder was saying, he's reading those green words there on the slide before, and hear a lot of people like, well, I don't have project management experience or things like that. You do. You're managing your own projects, your own research. So don't discredit that or undervalue your experiences that you're having right now. Your time in your PhD counts as experience. And so if the position's asking for 4 years of research experience, you have that, right? Once you're done with your PhD, you have 5+ years experience. So make sure you're counting that. And UCI is the company, graduate researcher, graduate scientist, teaching assistant, whatever it is that you can have, that's going to be your title for this section.
So keep in mind, quantify with numbers, percentage, or some data. STAR approach: situation, task, action, result. Your resume and your LinkedIn profile will be looked and scanned based on the STAR approach if you have added that. Therefore, the result you can quantify with like how many publications you had. If you got an award, quantify that, give a percentage. Let's say if there were 5 people applied, you got the award, you're like, 5 is a smaller number, but when you take the percentage, it is a significant number. So use that to sort of translate that. It looks like, you're special. Experience section. I can talk, as Lauren said, company, organization, affiliation. Use this effectively because there's an option you can actually add images, slides, certificates, or videos. Look at my profile. I taught fundamentals of neuroscience course. I just put that in there. I had a whole PowerPoint earlier, but I was like, I should take it out. I only added a couple of slides. This is my paper, which I published. I designed this image, and I was like, took a lot of time. This is close to my heart. And so when you look at the heading, I wrote cytoskeletal dynamics and protein dance kind of a thing, so that it sort of attracts people that you have graphic designing skills also, and shows that this thing got published. Did I miss anything here, Lauren?
No, you just want to make sure you're taking advantage of this section. This is where you're putting those keywords and you're explaining what you were doing that's in that transferable way for the positions that you're looking for. So make use of this section.
Perfect. This is another experience section. This was Logan Robert. He's MSL. This is an experience. You can actually split your experience headline also. Neuroscientist, scientific writer, award winner, manager. Strategies for managing circadian neuropsychiatric disorder leading to prestigious fellowship, 4 publications, international media coverage. Led a cross-functional team, 5 academic, 4 industry experts. It seems like this person had industry collaboration going on. Even if you don't have an industry collaboration, you can always say 4, scientific experts who could be academic also. Cultivated relationship, 3 collaboration, key partners you had, international conferences, and presentation award. So you see like how this person is really hitting the keywords really hard, and then, using that to translate to what people will be like, wow, this is great. This is another one, research associate, assay developer, science communication. You are that. Applied multidisciplinary approaches to perform structure function studies. Yes, you do that every day. There's a little bit of jargon here, which I would probably have avoided, but I guess person was applying for a position based on this, so it's okay. Optimize buffer, and you're like, I optimize buffers every day. I adjust pH for my buffer. What's the big deal in that? It is a big deal in the outside world when you're optimizing something to be used in an experiment. And chromatography, filtration, that's again very specific, but develop new approaches to blah, blah, blah. Yes, you do that. You troubleshoot, experiment, you think, you try and try and try again, you fail, but then you again try. That's important. Reduce lab expenses on reagents. Don't we all do that? Again, I always give an example of this antibody, talking to salespeople. Can I get this deal? Hey, do you have any discount going on? That is what you do
Mhm.
in the lab. And you got this award, and the award was for excellence in doctoral studies in biochemistry. Don't just say, I received Frank Baldino Award. Who is Frank Baldino? I don't know. You have to say what the award was for, and why did you get that, and how many people got that award. These are the recommendation part. This is the very, very important part. In a resume, you cannot give recommendation. When they are reviewing your application, they don't ask for recommendation because they don't want to do that unless they have taken you through the process of recruitment. So this is one place you can ask people for recommendations so that recruiters can read it without actually asking and going into multiple steps. These are the people I work with. I could have taken recommendation from my PI, or have taken it from my other postdocs, or people, but then I wanted to take it from people who have moved on to careers which will show that recruiters like, oh yeah, I know this people, or this person is working in that position, and we are interviewing for him for that position. So that's great that this person recommended him. So this is important. Not only ask for recommendations, but also reciprocate, because this is again built into the algorithm which recruiters use in LinkedIn, that Harinder got so many recommendations, but did he ever give anything back? So that's important.
Mhm.
Lauren?
Yeah. So those really the things we walked through just now, your header, your summary, your photo, education and experience sections, as well as the recommendation. Those are the kind of the core elements that we want to make sure are part of your profile. Recommendations would be a great add, but I would say that one you can work on developing throughout. But the other sections we really want to have before we start that job search, before we reaching out for connections, it's going to be continued to develop, but that's kind of the core, the basics that we really want to have. And then you're going to add on these other things continually to put these on. So your accomplishments, what you're accomplishing, different projects. You can add courses that might be specific, especially if you're taking ones in business, project management, things like that, that show a different side of what you're developing. Awards, you can quantify these here, different organizations like UPS STEM, putting that in and some of the work that you're doing there. You can list your publications. Sometimes on a resume, we're not able to put them on there. We're not able to put all of them on there. Here we can put them, and if they're accessible, we can link directly to them as well. Different projects that you're working on, you definitely can highlight that here. Add in those skills, those keywords that you were developing during these projects. Languages might not be necessary for a position you're applying to, but it's great just to show multicultural fluency or different areas here. So add languages that you're able to speak or understand into this. Interests and volunteer experiences, would definitely want to put these in, especially if it talks to the culture of a company, right? So like one example I give, if you're wanting to be, a data analyst for Vans or something like that, and you're a surfer and you love to skateboard, put that in here, right? Show that personality and that culture fit in your LinkedIn. So these are
Yeah.
other sections that we're wanting to highlight.
Yeah, language, keep in mind, if you are applying for some job, and let's say, that job involves traveling a lot, and international travel, it may involve going to France, Italy, Latin America, so if you know those languages, put that. That's an asset. But if you're putting in, I know 5 other languages, but they're all my native languages from India, which are not even used in any of the professional settings. So I wouldn't put that, because it's great, but then it's not that you learned those languages to be professional. Those languages are not going to help you in professional world. So don't do that unless you're applying for United Nations job, where they actually looking for people who are fluent in multiple different languages so they can post them in different parts of the world. Then you add that. So don't use that space. Use that space effectively. Volunteer experience, it shows that you care. It shows that you are involved in community. It shows that you go beyond what you do every day and do something different, which is giving you great experience. That is important. Quick recap. Lauren, you want to do that?
Yeah, so like I mentioned in the last slide, kind of those things on the left-hand side, those are the bare bones, right, that we want to have there. So I know all of you are at different stages of your process of filling out your LinkedIn, your job search, reaching out to people, but just double check your profile and make sure that you have these core things on the left-hand side. And that headline and summary are really, really the core. That's where people are going to read the most on your LinkedIn profile. So make sure you are using those keywords. That way your LinkedIn can also act as a passive recruitment tool, right? You can just have your LinkedIn profile there, and recruiters can be searching for you through those keyword searches. That's the best way, right, to get a job, is to be recruited. And LinkedIn definitely can do that for you. I've worked with several who have gotten contacted from recruiters because of their LinkedIn profile. We're wanting to really tie in, where you were and what you're working on now, and how that relates to where you're headed into your future career, and that brand that you're presenting for yourself. And key thing, make sure you're doing it as a professional, right? Your LinkedIn profile isn't your student page, it's your professional brand that you're sharing.
So everyone is active. I was looking at the numbers, like, the number of people who are using LinkedIn has gone up like almost double. So people are active on LinkedIn right now. Share content, comment on things. You read something on related to your job industry, and you see some professionals posted that, say that it was nice read. I was intrigued by this part. So you get noticed in amongst that circle. People give feedback, join in the conversations, as I said, but follow the etiquettes of communication. It's not Facebook. Do not add any language which will stay there forever, and people will see that will do not want to talk. When you write messages to people on private messages, be mindful of their time. When you write short note, keep it as brief as possible and ask what you're asking for. Do not keep bugging them like, hey, you didn't get an answer to this thing, tell me about it. Don't do that. We'll get into these detailed aspects in next workshops. So therefore, we wanted to give you a complete overview of this LinkedIn. I know we ran through a lot of things, but I think we want to polish our LinkedIn profile. We want it to be best. And therefore, we want to attend those LinkedIn workshops. We get into super details. But it's always, you have to go back and see, do you have a LinkedIn profile which really pops up when people are looking for candidates? If you don't have the basic parts taken care of, getting into details is not going to help. So keep that in mind. Well, thank you all for listening. This is our emails below, and feel free to write to us. So we're going to stay here for a couple of more minutes, maybe 10 minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to write in the chat. And I will be recording this thing and polish this thing. It's a lot of work, but I will do it, I promise you. And we will bring in some professionals who will do similar sessions, short sessions, rapid fire ones, so it doesn't take too much time out of you. It's a lot of work working on LinkedIn. You can sit there and listen to LinkedIn presentations, but I would say, I've learned so much by being active on it, and this has taught me a lot. So we have a question. Could you please give a few more tips on how to create the perfect LinkedIn background picture? Should I include keywords, any drawing? That's a good one. What do you think, Lauren?
I don't know if I'd want to see maybe words in that background, as if like they're just putting words up there. One time I have seen words, and it was more someone's brand was about bringing wellness into the community and communicating things like that. And so she had like a beautiful art painting that had a bunch of wellness words, things like that. And those are definitely keywords, but they're not going to be scanning that background picture for keywords. So that's not really the place that you need to worry about putting the keywords. Just something, and I know it's kind of ambiguous, but something that represents that professional brand that you want to get across. So it doesn't have to be, like mine is very skewed, right? Like if you see a plane, you might think I'm a flight attendant or something like that. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just any picture in that background is helpful. So if you're an astrophysicist, throw some stars up there, right? Or something like that would be fine. But I wouldn't stress too much on it being perfect, just throwing something up there that's professional.
Yeah. So again, since now we have time, we're done with the whole thing, but I would still add certain things. Like people ask me like, well, how do I know what keyword should I put? You gave me these examples, I can go, but I may be missing out on certain things. So how do I know the job I'm applying to, what keyword should be there on my LinkedIn profile? We will get into this in detail, but I'm just telling you, about Google Word Cloud. Take your the job description you see on the company, copy that, paste into Google Cloud, and see the number of keywords and how many times. It gives you the percentage, how many times it's coming up. So you tailor your resume and your LinkedIn profile based on those keywords. And then what you do is you again, after you've done that, take that language from your LinkedIn and paste it on that Google Cloud and see how much of match is there. Your resume and LinkedIn profile will be seen or even like, go next step. If they see there is a close to 70%, 60 to 70% match, they say that's the percentage they say. Try to make sure work that. And, this is like you're putting your resume on top of the pile, and you just want to make sure somehow they look at it. And once they look at it, you have everything in there. You do not want to lose out on things by not having these professional things online, not having done this homework. But we know all of you, we know that you're at UCI, you're great, and you can do any job, but you want to show that. Any more questions? Okay. Where on the website would these PowerPoint and recordings be accessible? And when will we know when the next session is going to be? So I will be, once I polish this thing, edit, I will put it on our GPS STEM YouTube channel. So go on GPS STEM website, there's a YouTube link, that's our channel, and all the things are there. I will add this, but I will announce it also in newsletter. So stay tuned in newsletters, whatever we are adding, I'll update. And when is the next session? So we are working with some of the industry professionals right now based on their availability. If we can bring them, maybe they'll be here next week or maybe a week after. But if there's anything specific need, if you think that, you would like us to focus on, you need a session on like summary. So we will come in and we can do like 15-20 minute session just on summary. Let us know. If you want us to focus just on experience part, we can come in and just do a like very small, quick round on that particular section while we're waiting for industry professionals to come. Second thing, next week we have a couple of events coming up. We have Field Application Scientist Career and e-networking night. There will be e-networking grounds. There will be, you bring your own beer and bring your own food, and we will put you into Zoom breakout rooms. You can and do speed networking with professionals in that. We have business course starting on April 24. It is open only to GPS STEM members. You can easily become member by just doing all the steps which I've said, and you can take that for free, but you have to be part of like all the modules we do. Then we have Life Beyond PhD seminar on April 23rd. I'll have the advertisements going out very soon, which is going to talk about someone who was PhD and postdoc in neuroscience and is a venture capitalist now. So stay tuned for all those things coming up. This is actually really helping us to bring people who otherwise couldn't come on campus, but they can be online now. Anything else, my friends? Would you be able to offer one-on-one online meetings to review our LinkedIn profile?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. So
Should we do that, Lauren? I think we've done like always online, like one-on-one resume sessions, but I think, I have never seen anyone do that. That's a wonderful idea. How about we do that? Yeah.
I'm good with that. We can set them up through GPS STEM. You could also schedule them if you're a PhD student. You can schedule them through Handshake. If you're a postdoc, then we can work on some one-on-ones through GPS STEM to do some drop-in hours for that.
That's a wonderful idea. Maybe I can actually go ahead and get the logistics part covered, and then we'll have the same 15-minute blocks for people to take an appointment, and then you give them in 15 minutes overview of their feedback of their LinkedIn profile. Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you, B. All right. If there are no more questions, then we can, oh, hi, B. Here is a link to Handshake. Awesome. And if there are no more questions, we can log out now and stay tuned, stay safe. These are difficult times, but I think California has been able to really flatten the curve. Hopefully it doesn't bounce back. Some parts are going really bad, but let's hope so. Things recover soon, but I think we have to be very patient. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care, everyone.